What's going on? And welcome back to another episode of The Mortgage Mindset. I'm your host, Trevor Otsuka. I'm a licensed loan originator with Barrett Financial Group, and I lend on commercial, residential, and private money for fix and flip. And today we're running a solo show. Got a couple of things I want to talk to you about, specifically what's happening in the Las Vegas market. And then I also have a very interesting headline from Housing Wire regarding a Department of Justice lawsuit against Rocket Mortgage, one of the largest lenders in the country. So let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about the market. So today is Monday, October the 21st, and the interest rates for today. This is going to be from Mortgage News Daily. This is an absolutely free resource, mortgagenewsdaily.com. And they do a national rate survey, I believe, with over 200 lenders across the country. And they come up with this average based on what everybody has. Okay. So if you're way above this, then you're out of the market, and very few lenders are going to be significantly below this. So for conventional 30-year fixed, we're looking at 6.82% today. 15-year fixed is at 6.19%. 30-year jumbo is at 6.90. A 30-year FHA is at 6.25, and 30-year VA is also at 6.25%. Let's take a look here at econ data, economic data that is coming up. So this week, October the 24th, the biggest mover that is coming up is going to be S&P Global Services PMI. So what is that? The S&P Global Services is a Purchase Managers Index, is what the PMI stands for. It is a monthly economic indicator that tracks business conditions in the services sector. So how is it calculated? The global PMI is calculated by weighing together country indices using national manufacturing and services GDP weights. They actually do the survey across 40 different countries, and it tracks variables such as sales, employment, inventories, and prices. Okay, so this could be potentially a pretty big market mover. The expectation or the forecast is that it'll come in at a rating of 55. Generally, anything over 50 means that the S&P services for manufacturing, that those markets are actually expanding. So those companies are growing. Okay, so 55 I think is good. The previous report was at 55.2. So we should be okay on that. For next week, biggest things that we have are going to be, believe it or not, on Halloween. So we have core PCE, which is one of the key measurements of inflation. That'll be month over month. And then you also have employment costs for quarter three. The following day, which is Friday, November the 1st, you have non-farm payroll jobs report. This crushed us in the September one that came out. So we'll see how that one is going to perform. And then you also have the ISM manufacturing PMI as well for the month of October. Jumping over to Las Vegas news headlines. So I found that this one was kind of interesting. So since I do commercial lending as well, this article is from the Las Vegas Review Journal. I will include all of the links to all of this information in the description below as well. And then also, if you're listening and not watching this, if you're going to be listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, I will have all of the links to these articles. So this one says, and the title, Commercial Land Prices Double in Las Vegas Valley. It says, the federal government is the biggest hurdle in fixing the Las Vegas Valley's ongoing land crisis, prominent land developers claim. Nevada finds itself in the most unique of positions because the Bureau of Land Management controls 88% of Clark County alone, the largest percentage in the country, said George Garcia, founder of GC Garcia Inc., who has been working in the land planning and development services sector for more than 30 years. Says, quote, this is by far the dominant issue, end quote. He said, says, quote, if you go to Arizona, Texas, places like that, which are high growth areas, they don't have that constraint. And so that is an enormously limiting factor because it chokes the development and expansion, end quote. Says the Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act passed in 1998 identified around 67,000 acres out of the 2.9 million available for disposal in the Las Vegas Valley that could be utilized for either commercial or residential development, said former BLM employee Mike Ford in an interview with the Review Journal. Around 33,000 acres of smaller BLM parcels littered throughout the country also are identified for disposal and could be developed. Because of the shortage of buildable land, The price per square foot of commercial land has doubled in the past 2 years in the Las Vegas Valley, according to Collier's International second quarter commercial report, as it now sits at $16.56 per square foot, compared to $7.50 a square foot halfway through 2022. That's wild. It says, and on the residential side, home prices have jumped close to 40% since 2020, according to the Freddie Mac House Price Index of Appreciation. The price of materials to build homes has increased close to 40% as well since 2019, according to the Producer Price Index. So that's wild. There's definitely a ton of land around the Las Vegas Valley. I'm sure you guys have seen it. That is, in fact, owned by BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. Some of it has been released for park development. There was a big, big park that's being built in the Henderson Green Valley area. It's very, very close to McDonald Highlands. I think it's just east of that. I believe that they just broke ground on that. It's probably going to be the last park that'll be developed in the Henderson area. You guys can look into that. Now, for the national news headline that I found pretty interesting here, this is from Housing Wire. Here's the title. It says, Department of Justice sues Rocket appraisal companies over alleged discrimination. It says, another regulator has sued Rocket Mortgage for allegedly discriminating against a black homeowner by undervaluing her home during an appraisal in Colorado 3 years ago. And the Detroit-based lender believes it's a massive overreach. On Monday, the U.S. Department of Justice, following a move made by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, in July, filed a lawsuit against the lender and the appraiser and the appraisal management company called Maverick Appraisal Group and the appraisal management company Solidify US Inc. Says the document states that the plaintiffs undervalued a homeowner's property based on her race in an appraisal made in 2021 in Denver. In addition, Rocket is accused of retaliating against the homeowner by canceling her refinance application when she reported the discrimination. Wow. It says, quote, under federal law, mortgage lenders are required to work at arm's length during the appraisal process, partnering with independent appraisal management companies who assign the work to state licensed professional appraisers, end quote. A spokesperson of Rocket told Housing Wire. It says, quote, the law's intent is to determine the home's value without any input or bias from the lender or any other party with interest in the transaction, end quote. It says, the spokesperson continued, quote, it is clear the government isn't interested in their own rules or facts and are simply including us in the case to score headlines based on our strong brand and prominent position in the industry. We look forward to exposing the government's massive overreach in this matter, end quote. The Department of Justice lawsuit was filed in the U.S. District Court of the District of Colorado. It says, quote, the lawsuit is part of our ongoing effort to bring an end to appraisal bias, which prevent Black communities and other consumers of color from accessing credit and benefiting from home ownership, end quote. Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark of the DOJ Civil Rights Division said in a statement. Says the homeowner applied for a mortgage refinance at Rocket in January of 2021. According to the complaint, during the appraisal process, the appraiser used sales from properties in further away neighborhoods with large Black populations and discarded sales of homes less than a mile from the homeowner's property. We'll get into that point here in just a second. It resulted in an appraisal of more than $200,000 lower than one made at that same property less than a year before, despite home prices surging 25% in Denver during the same period. After she complained to Rocket Mortgage, the company canceled her refinance application. The homeowner submitted a complaint to the HUD, which concluded that the defendants violated the Fair Housing Act and referred the matter to the Department of Justice. This is the second appraisal bias case involving a top 10 lender and a powerful regulator. Loan Depot in March settled a civil case in which a Black Maryland couple alleged they were lowballed on the appraisal by the local appraiser and subsequently discriminated against by the lender. The Department of Justice and CFPB, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, filed a statement of interest in the case. Loan Depot ultimately admitted no fault on the settlement contained an overhaul to its appraisal policies and procedures. The changes include communicating. Okay, so that's pretty much it. But I want to back up here. There was one point that it said in here for the comps that they use. A lot of you that listen to the show are real estate professionals. So whenever they order an appraisal and they are appraising the value of a property, they have to pull like-kind comps. And usually those are going to be constructed in a similar decade at least, similar floor plans, same amount of square footage. That's usually what they're looking at. And then they also, most of these appraisal management companies will put a cap on the distance. So if your property is located in one location, the maximum radius that they'll go out for pulling comps is usually within a mile or less. So if this appraiser did in fact use comps that were from a community that had a higher population of Black people that live there, and used comps there instead of comps that were within a mile, I think personally that would 100% fall into discriminatory practices. I'd be interested to see or hear how this case is going to progress, and how the appraiser from the AMC is going to explain, well, why did you choose the comps that you did? But I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this. This is an interesting subject. This is something that, all of these laws are in place to protect consumers, and they've been in place ever since the housing crisis in 2007 that led to a huge reform in the way that mortgage lending is done in the United States in 2008 and 2009. So I'm curious. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Mortgage Mindset. We are launching a newsletter as well. So if you guys want to get in on that, connect with us on social media. My Instagram handle is at Trevor Otsuka. This is the same thing on Facebook. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a message and I will get you added to the weekly newsletter. It's going to be good. So, all right, guys, that's it. I appreciate you. I love you. Hope you have a blessed week. Let's go.